Hi, I'm Christina.
And I'm Matt.
And this is new Wayz Podcast. Today, our guest is founder of Expansion and a dedicated breathwork coach. She's also created a 90-day expansion journal to help guide others on their inner journey. Greta Ruljevaite, thank you for being here with us.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. I loved the introduction, so thank you.
You guys, I struggled with it a little bit, but we're all good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I still get nervous doing these after how many episodes? So to give you guys a little insight on what we're doing today is Greta is joining us in our, in a way, Thanksgiving themed episode.
Yep.
Me and Matt really wanted to dive into kind of themes of Thanksgiving. So we were thinking gratitude and connection. And Greta, I've known you for some time now, and you were an incredibly grounded, unique, like open heart individual. And I thought you could bring some valuable insight to this conversation today.
My goodness. Well, thank you, because I definitely wasn't always grounded. So I feel like that's also been part of the journey too, is like throughout my journey, I definitely picked up a lot of tools along the way to help me feel grounded and feel really comfortable and present in my body.
I love that. And I can't wait to dig deep into that. Yes. As much as this is a Thanksgiving episode and we're trying to stick on themes, who knows where this is going to go today? And I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Are you a turkey or a ham girl?
Ooh.
Or neither? Tofu?
Is there a
I don't
third
know.
option?
Is there a
Oh no,
yeah.
I would not do a tofu turkey. I mean, nothing against all the tofu turkeys out there, but
Wait, do they actually make tofu shape?
Yeah.
they do.
They do.
Turkey shaped?
I don't think I mean, I probably shouldn't talk crap either, because I've never actually had one, but it just seems like a sponge on a platter. I don't know.
I like tofu. It might
But
be
I
yummy.
do like tofu. But
Yeah.
do they make it shaped like a turkey? Honestly. Because I'm really trying to visualize this right now.
I feel like,
tofu
why do I
turkey.
feel like it's out there?
It definitely
It
is.
definitely is.
Tofu turkey.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm just thinking of the butter lambs,
Yeah.
like on Easter. They love putting food into animal shapes. That's,
I
you know,
think it's like the thing for whatever reason.
yeah. But
Yeah.
Okay,
what do you eat on Thanksgiving then? No turkey or ham?
Honestly, neither. Although I do like turkey, but I feel like I kind of just do like a completely different spread on Thanksgiving than like what is the normal spread.
What's your normal spread?
Like I never do any casseroles. Like
That's
I've never
okay.
been like a big fan of casseroles, which I guess is a great idea because it's just like a pot of blended a lot of ingredients. So you can't go wrong if you put the right ingredients in there. But I feel like
you
I'm
can
just,
go wrong.
I guess you can
You
go
can
wrong.
go
Yeah, you
wrong.
can definitely things can go really bad in that pot.
It's all about the concept.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure we've all been to those Thanksgiving feasts where you're like, I'll eat the bread, thank you.
Yeah.
But then there's also the ones where I'm like, I'm devouring everything. My best
I mean, that's
yeah.
true. Oh, what's your best Thanksgiving?
My best Thanksgiving, Sid, I love you, is me and my friend, when I first moved to LA, we volunteered at the homeless shelter. Then we got Erewhon Thanksgiving and ate it in bed watching a movie. And that was like the best Thanksgiving I had. I'm like, it was Erewhon Thanksgiving food, which it is delicious. But I'm like, it's all about the intention, I feel like, behind doing anything.
It is the intention. I think honestly my favorite Thanksgiving was in Joshua Tree, funny enough. And my boyfriend and I went to Joshua Tree. And the next day we like sat outside. I was just in a robe and I just made a crazy feast of just everything, just from potatoes and salad and like I made this, I can't remember the name of it, but it's just Turkish amazing breakfast dish where it's a massive pot of eggs and just like tomatoes and salsa and like it was phenomenal. We had like 10 dishes on the table and it was just him and I. And we just went into town. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then I realized too, I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's intention is one of the biggest things. And it's everything surrounding intention. It's like, why did you choose to be at the place that you chose to be at? Who are you choosing to be with and share those moments with? What are you choosing to create and put in your body, honestly? Like, you obviously want to nourish your body. And I also think, like, there is so much intention that goes into the food that you're creating, right? And if you obviously create it with love and joy and you enjoy the process, like, I think it's way more nourishing for your body and you just have so much more fulfillment eating that food.
Completely.
You know, I think it's like a little bit of all of it. And then it comes back to like intention. I think that's what's behind like moments that make it so precious.
Yeah. So let's kind of, since we jumped into it, let's break it down then. I feel like a lot of people, when they think about Thanksgiving, they think of spending it with family, right? So what's your take then on showing up for yourself while still being with, because some family can be controversial sometimes around the holidays. Some people are like, I'd rather spend it with my friends than my family. How do I protect my peace when I'm in situations around people that might trigger me? What's your take on like family time and Thanksgiving and who you spend it with and your intention going in?
Yeah, I think it's it's also coming back to boundaries. So I think it's like, and that's what makes it, I feel like all these holidays and any intention when you want to gather with, you know, family or friends, specifically around holidays, because I feel like there's just a lot of pressure where you feel like you got to gather with a certain tribe, like a very specific tribe, like your family, right? And that doesn't always mean that you need to show up, depending on what's going on and how you're feeling. But I think it's just such a beautiful moment to practice boundaries. And that is obviously going to be so different for everybody. So it's like, what do you need at this moment? You know, if there is some if you're having a difficult time with your family, I mean, personally, I'm like, look, I know family, it's blood, you love them. If you're having a difficult time, I'm like, show up for yourself. Yeah. You don't need to show up. You know, if that's not what you want to process, if they're not in a position to maybe have the conversations or be vulnerable, like I also think that time being with family could be an amazing time if everyone is on a path to actually be vulnerable and open to discuss maybe any issues that are coming up. Like that could be an amazing moment. Like, you might be forced together, but if you're in a position to be open and discuss what's actually going on, then that'd be great. But if you're going to come into like a gathering where everybody's just going to suppress whatever's going on, like
or
show
you're just
face,
there to show up because it's what you're supposed to do and not actually an environment that like nourishes you and makes you thrive.
Yeah, and that food in those situations are never good. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, it comes out in the food. Like if you ever get confused, notice in the food that's being made. If people are not happy or having a good time, you're not going to be fed well. You know?
You're like, why does my stomach hurt? Is it my emotions or is it the turkey? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't discern anymore. But that's why it's also making those boundaries. And I think that is such an opportunity for just to expand and to grow, you know? And if you don't want to show up, don't show up. And that's the thing too, is I'm like, of course, like I love and appreciate my family. And we also had like a very tumultuous relationship, right? And I have love for them. And I'm like, you know what? It's like I have respect. And I know there's work that I need to do in my lineage and my like ancestral bloodline. But then I've also like found my family from my other relationships and my friends. And like, that's why I'm like, family to me, I'm like, you know, I'm going to show up where I feel the most supported, where I feel the most loved, and where I feel also just the most challenged, where I can continue to grow.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. Yeah. And I also, just because you don't show up one year or for one holiday does not mean you can't show up for another. It's not like you're completely abandoning the people who do want you there. I'm just a firm believer too. It's like there's seasons in life, like there's seasons in holidays, in nature. If there's one year where I'm just drained and I feel like me going to be around these people is going to drain me even more, I do need to take my space. But then there's other years where I'm like, I'm ready to intertwine and like see you guys and come at this family gathering my best self and accept you guys for who you are and what you're bringing to the table. So I love how you mentioned that too, because I feel like a lot of times, like my family even is my friends I've made out here. Like I just went to Big Bear with Matt this weekend and it's like I had the best time, and family is really who you make it. And I kind of wish we all realized that just because you choose not to show up one time, that doesn't mean the love for those other family members or those people or that area goes away. It doesn't mean that I'm like not choosing you. It just means I'm choosing me right now. And I feel like that's something we all kind of need to like get past, how you should be with your family or you have obligations. I don't believe in obligations. Yeah.
Same. And I think also like something that might get confusing for a lot of people, it definitely got confusing for me, is the guilt. I was like, that like I struggled with before too, because I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do this, but then like there'll be this guilt put on me for like not showing up.
Yeah,
you know?
completely.
And then I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I need to take myself out of this. It's not about me, you know? And I'm like, and then the way to like transition out of that guilt is choosing you. Yeah. And choosing how you want to show up. And to come to your point too, I'm like, I feel like, honestly, when it comes down to it, like, at least in my experiences and in my journey so far, I'm like, one of the paths to freedom that I'm like still maneuvering is boundaries. And I feel like if you think about it too, I'm like nature also shows us representations of boundaries as well. Like, right? Like if you think about it, it's like the ocean is contained by the shorelines, you know? There's seasons that are changing to support when there's time for growth and rest. Like it's all around us. So I feel like nature is always showing us like the step ahead and the way to go. And then it's up to us. Of course, it's trial and error sometimes, like especially with boundaries, because it's like, wait, I can make all the boundaries for myself. Like I don't know if I can actually do this. Like I won't be accepted if I do this. And then sometimes you make boundaries and then you also have to trial and error. And it's like, oh, okay, this didn't really feel that good. Or maybe I need to adjust this boundary, you know, because I feel like there's so much play in that area too, to create like the boundaries that's actually going to make you feel your best. And then you're also like supported for yourself as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy too that when you actually start setting those boundaries, a lot of times I feel like people freak out internally and they're like, it's not going to be accepted. But there's been a few people where I'm like, this is going to upset them. And they're like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like show up for yourself. And then that's also teaching other people how to show up for you. And also too, it's like, don't just wait for the holidays to set boundaries. Like start practicing it every single day. I'm like, I hate those people that come out of, not hate, that's a strong word. I'm not a fan of those people who come out of the woodwork and they're like, it's a holiday time. So we have to do all these things. I'm like, where were you the other like multiple months, days out of the year?
Yeah, it's like just going on autopilot, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm like, it's just because it's this one day. I'm like, I want to show up for myself and for the people that I love every single day. It shouldn't just have to be this one day. Is just a reminder of how we show up for ourselves and everybody throughout the entire year. So one thing you mentioned too, which I would love to dive a little deep into because I feel like it's a interesting subject, is like family lineage. Can you kind of share what that is for some of our viewers who might not know?
Yes. So, well, also like through my journey too, I mean, essentially like we adapt like, you know, generations of everything that our family's been through, especially I think at least like 12 generations that we inherit like in our bloodline, you know? And part of my path and like journey too was like essentially just healing that as well. And it took a while, and I think it's also just going to be like an ongoing journey, but it has been healing those lineages so that patterns wouldn't be repetitive as well. Because I think I also noticed too is throughout my journey too, I was like, there were so many patterns that I adapted from, you know, my family that they weren't able to learn or change. And it was just like repetitive, right? And then I noticed too, and I was like, okay, well, these things that I've adapted from my family, obviously is not getting me to a place where I want to get.
Yeah.
Actually, not at all. And it got me to some places that I wish I never got into, but I needed to get to those places to get to where I was right now.
Yeah.
So I did feel it like in my veins too. I was like, all right, like I also think I'm a huge believer too. I'm like, look, I really believe that I have like a purpose in this world. And that was really hard for me to discover and also believe in myself. Because for the longest time, I was like, why am I even here? Like everything just sucks. Like I just hate everything. I hate everything. Which is wild to also look back and like witness myself like in those stages. But I also then just realized that I was like, you know what? Like through my time, I was like, I do have purpose. And I also am like, if I can show up for my family in a way where like I can also just heal our lineage and kind of break these patterns. Like if I have the strength, which I feel like I do, and I have done, I was like, I will do it, you know? And I kind of think of it in a way where it's like, even if you think of like irrigation or water systems, or if like things are at fault, like it's just it's mending it so you can like commit to the flow again. So I just felt like in my lineage and our generational trauma, there was no more flow. There was too much restriction. Nothing was going in flow. It was all about resistance, and it was a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion. And I was like, you know what? Let me actually dive in and see if I can repair and mend some of this. And then I thought, I was like, all right. And as a result, I was like, I know I can heal myself, and I can live the life that I want to live. And I was also like a strong believer that if I can break the patterns and heal myself, then as a result, I think also just naturally would heal my family as well too.
Yeah.
When did you first notice that those patterns became evident?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I noticed it. I mean, I think I actually noticed it from like a very young age. So one of the patterns, like I guess that I've witnessed in my family was just a lot of sabotage. That was a big thing. It was like so interesting. Ever since I was little, I was always able to like witness like my family making amazing things happen and manifesting amazing things. So I always had the belief where I'm like, wait, you can create so many amazing things, but then they would sabotage it every single time. And it would be just perpetual cycle all the time. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like you can create anything. So I was like, wait, this is great. So I like would make so many amazing things throughout my journey, but then I would sabotage it all. And I would be doing the same thing. And it was just constant, perpetual. But I also realized, I was like, ooh, you can really make anything happen. And for me, what I understood from that experience, I was like, out of sheer like desperation, he had like the ability and power to like somehow manifest that abundance to get back home.
So I'm curious now, what's your understanding in regards to the sabotage then? Because like clearly you got, where there's a will, there's a way, and you can manifest anything you want. But I'm a firm believer that like people sabotage sometimes for a reason. Have you kind of wrapped your head around that?
Yeah, and I guess like it can go so many different ways. For me, I think I was sabotaging it because I just couldn't wrap my head around like things being amazing.
Really?
Yeah, I just didn't think I deserved it. I honestly just like...
I get that though, because you shared a little bit about your parents with me, and it seems like coming here, because they're not from the United States, they might have got the mentality that things are kind of hard, because things are hard when you're moving from another country, and the older generations do believe that like you work hard and you go through, therefore your subconscious might be actually like blocking blessings and abundance from coming in your life, because when you get it, you're like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It's too good to be true. So as a child, if that's what you're seeing and that's what you feel, it's not a surprise. It kind of follows you into your adult life.
And it's true. I mean, and they did come from the Soviet Union, so sometimes I cut them a break. I'm like, oh God, you literally just went through warfare, you know. Not that like any of those actions or decisions were acceptable, but then like obviously like I started to kind of like sit with compassion and kind of see it from like their point of view. I mean, I can't really fully, because obviously I wasn't like in the Soviet Union, like while the Soviet Union, communist Russia was, you know, it was operating. I wasn't obviously experiencing that, but it's funny because I can feel like I was experiencing it in my blood though, you know, because the thing is too, is like, I would also notice like I had like just so much anger. I was just a freaking angry person. Not like I would like wreak havoc or it's just a suppression of anger. And then along the way from like in my childhood, I was like, well, I like very much confused sadness with anger. So I'd like never show weakness. And I think that was also something like from my parents coming in. Yeah. Well, it's like, we got to survive. That's also what was ingrained for me from like, I think when I came out of the womb, is like, you got to survive, like survive. Otherwise, like, you will die. And I was like, so my entire life, I'm like, I just got to constantly survive. I just have to survive. And then I think also for my parents, I mean, and for them, it was probably really hard to show vulnerability and emotion, because while you are like operating in that like state of affairs and like that country, it's like you don't want to be showing weakness. That will be a huge threat to your survival. So me also growing up, it was like I wasn't really able to be emotionally open. So it was very confusing for me to figure out what I was actually feeling, because when I was trying to be open about how I was feeling, it was always disregarded, or it's like always taken in a sense where like I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling, and that's actually not what I'm feeling, you know? So it got really confusing. So it took me a while, honestly, into my adult life my adult life.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like still transitioning into my adult life or something. It sounds funny, but it took me a while to like start to discern what I'm actually feeling. And so many times, like thankfully, like my boyfriend, he's just so amazing. And a lot of times, like a lot of my anger would come out, and it like took me like expressing my anger and like sitting with it to realize like I'm just sad. Yeah. But like I just never knew how to show sadness. So instead I'm just freaking like an angry bird, you know? And it's and it would be like a suppression, but it would be more like an isolation angry bird where I'm just like don't touch me. Like don't touch me, leave me alone. But it would like my energy would like exude anger, you know? So it wouldn't be welcoming or warm. Like you just want to be as far away as possible, you know?
I think for a lot of people too, you know, who experience generational trauma, you know, in that way, you know, how did you sort of flip the switch and recognize that this isn't the person I want to be anymore?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, it's definitely been a journey. And it's not one thing. It's definitely like a lot of different things that I came across in my path. A big thing for me too was like psychedelics. Psychedelics and plant medicine definitely like altered just a lot of how I perceive myself and how I perceive the world. And I was just kind of really able to see how destructive the patterns were and kind of see them for what they were. And it really gave me an opportunity to like make those changes.
How did psychedelics sort of help show you that light?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're dropping good questions over here. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? We got a therapist in the chair. Okay. You know, it's also, and that's the thing too, is like there's not like one answer to that, but it, and especially I would always have different experiences every single time as well. So I definitely had experiences with psychedelics where I actually had to feel all the emotions that I like suppressed, and everything would just come out. And I would have to really process it and sit with it, which was also difficult because that's like, I don't know, I probably started suppressing emotions when I was like 4, realistically, like when I was little. Yeah. And then that was like the biggest tool for me because I'm like, I can get through anything. I'm just going to suppress everything and just continue moving and continue surviving. So part of it allowed me to kind of soften those areas and then really sit with all those emotions and understand those emotions. And then also, like I had so many different journeys as well. Like it really helped me just deconstruct everything in my mind to the point where I actually thought I was going to go crazy because everything that I ever believed in myself and the world, it just like shattered. And I like took that opportunity where I was like, oh wow, I feel like everything I was been told has been a lie. Yeah. And I just been living in this crazy illusion this entire time. And what I mean by that is like in regard to how I saw myself, in regard to how I saw the world, what I believed in. So it really also showed me what I feel like just like ultimate truth and just like connection and love and vulnerability and compassion. Yeah. It helped me also see like my family in a different way, and it allowed me to see them with compassion. It allowed me to like hold myself and like really be with myself, which I like never ever done. And
I mean, I just want to commend you on how brave that is, because that takes people years to figure out. And I'm sure that has taken you years to figure out. But even then, a lot of people still struggle with it because you're dismantling an entire belief system that you've known your entire life just to live the truth that you want to live for yourself. And I just think that's so beautiful. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. And honestly, it's like still a journey. That's the one thing I will say too, is like, I honestly feel like psychedelics and plant medicine is like such an amazing tool. And if you do it out of reverence and respect and intention, I think those are the biggest things. And also it's not like you take it, fix it all. So I feel like there's also been a misconception where it's like, all right, I'm going to sit with this and then my life's going to completely alter and change when I wake up, you know? It's also part of just the journey. Like you get into this like space that is even hard to describe sometimes. You're flying through realms and portals and you're seeing things you've never seen before. And I think they're just all tools and messages. And then once you, transition like out of that space and once your journey's over, depending on what psychedelic you have, it's like, okay, so now what? The journey continues on, but now what can you take from these moments and how can you continue to use them and how can you continue to grow? And that's why also I've been like a huge believer. I was like, there's so many ways, like through meditation, through breath work, there's plant medicine, there's so many different tools. And everybody is so unique that it's just like whatever really resonates with you and whatever is actually truly helping you. And for some people, like they never do psychedelics. And I feel like some people have a different path, and there's some people who do once, like psychedelic once, and they're like, okay, like there's some people continue on the journey and continue on the path. And I think it's just a reminder that like, there's no should be for anybody. There isn't. I feel like that's the most amazing thing too, because no one's ever really going to know what you need. It's just you that you know what you need.
Yeah.
And one thing too is that, I'm so fascinated with the world of psychedelics, and this is something that's been huge in the world of psychology for just the past couple of years.
Yeah.
We've always, seen it as a form of treatment, but now it's actually becoming medicinal in Western medicine, which is really cool. And so I
don't know if we're quite there yet. I know some people are pushing for it, but I think the closest to any type of like plant medicine we're seeing in the psych world right now is ketamine. Is that correct?
Yeah, and also shrooms.
Really? I didn't know that they're pushing for that now.
Psychedelic therapy is an actual therapy being used.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that was coming out.
And I think at one point it was like MDMA as well, but I don't know if that's like
MDMA therapy, and there's a few different things they're like really trying to push and advocate for it, and then that it's actually also being like worked on. You can get licensed now for it, which is really cool. So that being said, though, for people who are really like just kind of starting the journey, maybe they're kind of scared to take psychedelics because they're worried of a bad trip, or maybe they're worried of like, a bad experience, or maybe how people will perceive them and stuff. And so how, what are some ways that can kind of help people sort of kind of get over those initial fears and make themselves feel like they're in a safe space to do this sort of thing?
And I think there's like even other modalities like breath work. Like yoga, a ton of like for me, because I've been teaching breath work for like a few years now, and like the spaces that you get into during breath work honestly feels like a psychedelic journey, know, and that's just utilizing your breath. Like it is insane, like how powerful our breath is. It's everything. It's like our life force, and we like don't obviously consciously think about it, which thank goodness, thank God, but at the same time we kind of forget about it. And that's really, really like such a powerful tool that will help just continue to navigate us throughout our journey. And I think it's just having tools. That's why, like, at least for me, I personally just don't take any psychedelics lightly as well, just from things that I've experienced or from others that I've seen experience where I'm like, it's not something personally, I'm like, it's not for recreational use. You don't take it lightly. I think it's when it resonates, you feel good. I'm like, that's why it's also important to like, if you ever, at least for me, if you are having a journey and let's say if it's not guided by somebody you trust, or you have a safe space, you're with people that you trust, you have an intention, and also just like starting very, very slow and just easing into it, because everybody is so unique.
Yeah.
And you don't know what somebody's going through, what their traumas are. Like, I mean, I've done some crazy things with psychedelics and like gotten places where I'm like, oh my God, this is like actually insane. And I'm like super happy that I like gotten tools and everything along the way. But I've gotten to places where I'm like, without any tools or just kind of easing into it, I could easily lost my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you can get to some pretty wild, insane places. And then also if somebody just, is just starting to do like the work and really trying to connect with themselves and kind of see what's really going on in their inner space, like there's so many amazing tools as well. And like I said, it's like breath work or even like therapy, just certain things to help somebody start to bring awareness on what's happening, and then essentially like easing into it. And then there's some people though also like, I mean, I've also heard stories where people taking psychedelics for the first time and they weren't really prepared and they got out of it and they're like, all right, I am on this journey right now.
Yeah.
Obviously it's like, you never gonna know. And but at the same time, at least for me, I'm like, just like always just be, I don't know what's the right word. Just
my biggest thing is like be receptive and don't resist anything. Like if you're feeling called to something, don't just jump right in, but just be curious, dabble a little bit, see if it feels right for you. And then a lot of times like intention is everything. If you're going in for the right reasons, just being like, show me what I need, regardless if it is breath work, psychedelics, a therapist, like I'm here to learn things about myself that I don't already know, because if I knew it, I wouldn't be here. I think it's when people go into any type of therapy, regardless if it is like hallucinogenics, drug therapy, like talk therapy, if you go in thinking that you want it to be a certain way, you're not going to get out of it what you need to get out of it. Like with plant medicine, a lot of guides that I've talked to, they're like, it shows you what you need to see, not what you want to see. So if you're constantly resisting though, that's where people, I feel like, go the opposite way of where we want things to take them. They get depressed because they're not getting the right outcomes from the therapist or the breath work or the medicine, where it's like, you're here for a reason. Listen to yourself and let it guide you. And that's when you're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then also a big thing to that too is like trust.
Yeah.
Like trust it as well, you know, like it is like a connection.
Well, you can't open up and listen to yourself without being safe and feeling safe, right? Yeah. I agree with that.
And then we think about it, I'm like, man, you're really just immersing yourself in a different consciousness. How wild is that, right? If you really break that down.
Well, I think it was so funny too, though, how you were like, my world literally crumbled down in front of me. But at the same time, wasn't that one of the most freeing things on earth? I don't know. I've had my world crumble down and I was like, it makes so much sense now at the same time. You know, so many people are so scared of this world that they've built. They're like, this is just everything that I know, right? Things are meant to be tough. I'm supposed to be here for this person to do this. But it's like, they hold on to this world that's not serving them or they don't like anyways. It's when you realize like there's other things out there, it's so freeing.
Yeah.
So kind of full circle, how have you implemented now your journeys, your work into being present with your family?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's definitely not easy all the time. And it comes back to me working on my boundaries. Because, and also,
do you find it easier to be around them now that like you have a deeper connection with yourself and kind of an understanding?
Honestly, sometimes.
Yeah.
But I actually, because there's also times where I think it also comes back to how I feel, honestly. Like, if I'm just feeling, there's also moments where I just feel like, you know, I'm going through something or I'm moving through something, you know, and I will actually just create the space from them. And that's just kind of also the choice that I've made to just protect myself and honor myself. But then also I'm like, there's also moments where I just have this feeling. I'm like, all right, I can be present with them. And I feel like I need to show up for them. And I need to I need to be there. And usually, regardless, when I'm in the space with them, though, I feel like just throughout my journey, I can usually just show up and honestly, like, feel good. Like, regardless of what's going on or what's happening. But I think when it comes back to me, I really start to pay attention to what I want and what I need. And I think that's also because, you know, like I love my family, but we're also on like a different journey, you know? So it's like our beliefs are different. The things that we enjoy are different. I think honestly, I'm like the black sheep in my family. I'm just like, they probably look at me like this witch. Like, where'd she come from? Yeah. Like, how do we bring her into this world, you know? And I'm just like, you're welcome. So I guess the thing, I do have a lot of love for them. But I honestly, like, if they're in a mood and I can like really feel their energy, and if there's something that I just feel that I don't like, I just put my boundaries up and I don't immerse myself with it.
I think one of the hardest things too is that I see a lot of people struggle with is putting up those boundaries. And they come in and they'll talk to me and they're like, how do I put up these boundaries before I go see my family in a week? And I'm like, ooh, all right. Well,
don't go see them.
that is, I know, right? But like that is the boundary.
That is the boundary. No, but
I'm kidding.
No, but a lot of people, yeah, I mean, that's valid, right? Yeah. But the thing is I think a lot of people do go through that, and they're, you know, and so I've been in those situations where, especially like my teenagers will come to me and be like, I don't know how to talk to my family about certain things, or my family just pisses me off because they talk about politics, or they talk about, you know, topics that I don't feel comfortable with, or, you know, whatever it may be. And I think that I often will go in with the mindset of like, okay, how can we make sure that you are feeling supported through this? If we have to memorize like 5 or 6 sayings, you know, in our head, you know, that can kind of help sort of diffuse and, you know, help regain your power, you know? And so I think things like that are also really important as well, that I've really seen time and time again, or just people, it's like, you do hold the power, you know, to control you, not what someone else does or say, you know, but recognizing that is like a huge first step. Is like, they're them, you know, they are them and you are you. And that's the important part. It's like, just be glad you're not them, you know, and
just
then
be glad you're not them.
Yeah, just be glad.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's a huge thing. People are like, oh wait, that is, I'm so glad I'm not them and I get to be me. And I'm like, oh, you're right. You do.
And realizing you can disengage from people, you can still be there, be present when you can. If so, like, it's kind of like this, if we were talking about a subject one person didn't want to talk about, they'd be like, I'm good, let's move on to something else. Or honestly, like, somebody would just walk out of the room and be like, I'm good. You know, like, you have the power to walk away and still like come back and be like, I'm okay now. Like, excusing yourself does not mean you don't love people. And that's why I'm so big on the work too, is because during one of my journeys or whatnot, a realization that I had, because I've talked about my mom on here. We had an interesting relationship. I love her. I've forgiven her for everything that I think she's done onto me. Like, I'm sorry for the roles I played in it too. But at the same time, one thing that I realized was like, hurt people, struggling people hurt people. And like, it's one thing to know things, it's another thing to feel. I completely felt like my heart open, and I'm like, she was doing the best she could in that moment. You know, I'm like, I don't think any mother or father intentionally, some might, but most genuinely just want what's best for their kid. They're just doing the best that they know how. Right. So now whenever I see my family, especially my mom, and she says something that I don't agree with, or she's doing something, or my family's acting a way that makes me uncomfortable, I remind myself, I'm like, they're doing the best that they can. Like, this is nothing with me. This is all with them. And I try to de-escalate it and not let it hurt me then, you know, because I feel like a lot of people, when they're in situations that make them uncomfortable or bring them down, a lot of times it's because it triggers something in them. But when I'm like, they're just doing the best that they know how, it's just, I don't know, it softens the mood a little bit, instead of coming from a place of anger, which is usually where I'm from. Like, oh, why are they talking about this? It's like, oh, I get it. Yeah. You know?
And it's also like, and I think about the fact also that they didn't learn the proper skills to communicate. Like, that's how they're communicating. And to them, that seems like pure communication. You know, they were like, never learned a different way. Like, something else just does not feel comfortable or familiar, you know? And I think it's also why, and it's been hard for me too, is just being vulnerable, where I'm like, all right, let me communicate how I'm feeling, you know, like, this is too much. Or if I like talk to my parents or something, and I'm like, oh, they're falling back in like a pattern again, you know? Yeah. And like, trying to be just like loving, but like communicative about it. So I'm like, maybe if I'm a little more open, I'm like, hey, this is like making me feel a little uncomfortable, you know? Yeah. Like, I just don't like how this makes me feel, you know?
But verbalizing that is so important. Yeah. And I think a lot of people get nervous verbalizing that, because they don't want that. Like, a lot of people struggle with the fear of abandonment. Right. Or that like someone's be like, oh, you don't want to talk about this? Okay, bye.
But if you keep abandoning yourself, that's also a form of abandonment.
Agreed. But a lot of people would rather abandon themselves than abandon the people around them.
Oh yeah. Story of my life. It was, I struggle with that though. Like, just, abandonment. Yeah. So I just like recreate those scenarios too. Cause I was like, no, I'll just I'll abandon myself. But then I would find people in my life where, it's also wild, because I'm like, man, I was so strategic and I was unaware of it, you know, because I'm like, I would purposely find myself in situations where I would like set myself up to be abandoned, just to prove the point that I'm abandoned. And then when I actually saw that happening and started to deconstruct that pattern, I'm like, man, I'm pretty smart. Like if I can like subconsciously create this in my entire life, like throughout my relationship in my life, I'm like, man, imagine what I can create with intention and, like with good intention. So, like it is interesting how like, you'll like create things in your life and scenarios to, basically honor a belief that you have.
Yeah.
And also, so just to also go off of intention, I want to talk about also too, one of the main focuses that we're here today is your book.
Oh my God, yes.
And which is...
I've just been holding it in my lap.
Your book is literally a journey too, and we've been talking about the journey.
It's been chilling here. Yeah. It is a journey.
And for our audio listeners, your book is a up to 90-day...
it's a 90... Yeah.
Hi. No, you're good.
It's a 90-day journey. The reason why I created it too, I mean, if I'm being real, honestly, it came on an LSD trip. That's where, like, if I'm just being truthfully honest, the entire, this journal and the look of it obviously wasn't birthed from an LSD trip, but it was like it was many variations of many different LSD journeys and trips, but the idea was starting to be created from like my journeys. And what I was starting to see though, I'm like, it's really just about the journey.
It is.
I'm like, man, like, I mean, we still have like a freaking journey ahead of us, but like when I started to really sit and think about it, I was like, wow. And it also brought me so much compassion to just everybody, because I'm like, everyone has such a unique journey, right? We're just navigating through our own unique perspectives. And for me, I'm like, I think it's all, and it comes back to collaboration. It's like we're navigating through our journey, and we're also meant to come together and share our experiences. So we all have something to teach, to receive. Every single person, regardless if they think they have nothing to offer, they have a lot to offer, and they are a teacher, right? Because they probably experienced something that somebody else hasn't experienced. And like the only thing that we can do about it, the only way that we can share our experiences is coming together. So I created this journal. It's like my first product, and it's a journey inward. And for me, what I realized, I was like, you know what? It's really a journey through inner space. Like, how vast and amazing is the freaking universe? And we can go down a wormhole talking about how vast and amazing the universe is. And it exists within us, because we are the universe. And coming back to the fact, what you were saying is the power is within us. We like literally have electricity running through us. Like we are walking nuclear like power plants, which is wild, and that's like a fact based on quantum physics. So for me, I was like, you know what? One of the most exciting things in my life that I have done so far has just been on the journey of life. Just like navigating life, like going through all the trial and errors and like learning things, rediscovering things. Sometimes picking up things that might resonate and feel so good, and then later realizing that that completely changed and shifted and altered, right?
Yeah,
You're
it's
like,
time to put that down.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm done with it. It served its purpose completely.
Exactly. Like, it's so wild. And it's like the possibilities are infinite.
Yeah.
And I think when I really just started diving into that, I was like, wow, life is freaking phenomenal, and it is like such a gift. And like having just us humans all together is a gift in itself as well, because we are part of just one freaking amazing consciousness. We're all one. We really are. I honestly think like we just been taught divide and conquer. And I think that's what just society always wanted to do, is create this illusion of separation, separate everybody. Because when we come together, we can literally make any like mountains move.
All that energy together. Are you kidding me? When we're all like unified and like
freaking like I don't know, like the things that we could probably do are probably insane. And I don't know, whoever's operating this is like completely fearful of that. So I think the goal, the freaking mission in this like in society has been like, all right, let's instill fear in everybody so they don't come together. Let's keep separation, divide and conquer, so we can
power
essentially
scares a lot of people too, though.
Yeah. So it's like, however, but this also tie it in. Get so excited. I'm like, I'm so sorry, journal. Let me talk about you. But essentially, so, I created this journey where every single day has an intentional prompt just to help pinpoint, guide your focus. And the whole purpose is going on a journey inward. And it's broken down into 3 stages. So the first 30 days is about just building a strong foundation of just being gratitude and being positive. And that doesn't mean that whatever it is that's happening, you got to ignore it and just like be like, I'm a positive human. In reality, like something else is going on and you're not feeling your best. It's not about ignoring any of that. That's not the goal, but it's about building just a strong foundation for when we go into the second phase, which is the next 30 days up to 60 days, we're really going inner space to really figure out what's going on inside. Like, how are you actually feeling? Like allow yourself to reveal yourself and write it down and reveal it on paper.
And you put it in such, because I have your journal personally, and you do it in such a constructive way though. Because you're like, reflect on a moment and have grace for yourself and realizing kind of like what you overcame, but also acknowledging it's a part of you too. Yeah. And I love how you focus on gratitude, building like yourself up, and also like it kind of, am I mistaken? The end's kind of, because I'm not at the 90 days yet, but the end is kind of manifesting now what you want. It's like, it's taking you on the journey through like setting that energy that's going to carry you forward, realizing where you've been and now where you're going.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's also, it's like the last 30 days. I mean, that's where the name came, is expansion, right? It's just to allow yourself to expand, like just connect yourself with the universe. That's so expansive. Like it's infinite. It's never ending, and so are you. Yeah. And that doesn't mean like don't take time to like contract as well. Like take time for rest. Like take time to take care of yourself, right? And I think once you do take the time just to rest, take in what you need, even slow things down, that like also prepares you for expansion, where I feel like we've been kind of like molded into this culture and society where it's like, you gotta do this, like you're not productive enough, you gotta, this isn't happening as fast enough, right?
Well, and the theme of confusing. Like holidays and seasons and stuff, everything's a season, right? Like we have the winter season where it's time for things to rest and like regenerate and just stay in the ground, and then we have the seasons where it's like, let's go, sun's out, everything's growing, it's go time. And
one thing that I loved about this book so much from a therapist perspective was that this book is such a great representation of existentialism at its finest. And then you kind of take this huge worldview lens and you compartmentalize it for people who really, and because you keep talking about, the universe and how big the world is and how big life is and how we can move through space and time and do all these incredible things. But I think so many people see that and it's just like immediate dissociation. Yeah. Because how can I achieve any of that in this world? I've never been told I've been good enough. No one's ever believed in me. So how can I go about it? And I think that it's such a beautiful book for people to really sit down and figure out, wait, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, if I put my heart into it, put my soul into it. It's just such a beautiful way to start that process.
Yeah. And thank you. And for whatever reason, when you were telling me that, it's something that just intuitively came up. I was like, just don't give up. And try. Honestly, the coolest thing you can do is just try things. Yeah. Like I've tried so many things and just flopped, and I'm like,
but you didn't flop though, because I guarantee you've learned something from it.
Even so it wasn't that kind of flop.
To be. That's why I'm like, just accept everything for kind of, because even if it's not what you want it to be, there's something there.
Yeah, exactly. And then just don't give up, man. That's the biggest thing. Let's keep going. I mean, even before I found like psychedelics, I struggled with such bad anxiety, like crippling anxiety, which is even crazy to think about, that was going on for years. And for whatever reason, though, I found the path of Klonopin and Xanax. So I actually had a whole journey with that for like 7 years. Man, I mean, at that point too, I was like, I know there's something more out there, but I literally cannot function. And somehow I ended up in a psychiatrist's office, and somehow they gave me 2 milligrams of Klonopin. I remember taking it, and I'm like, ooh, I'm in trouble. Ooh. But I feel good because I just found some relief, and I didn't have the tools at that point otherwise, but somehow my journey, I was led there. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is going to be, and I knew it intuitively. I'm like signing up for war right now, because I know there's going to be a time where I'm going to get off of this. I just don't want to think about that now. And then when I do get off of this, I'm literally going to go through war getting off of this. Yeah. But I did it anyways, because that was the only thing that I can like do to find some relief and to function. And I was on that journey for like 5, 6, I don't even know, like 7 years. Oh, wow. Constantly. And then I was like, oh my God. I was like, at one point I was like, I feel like this is what it's going to be like. I am so dependent, and I was also abusing it as well. I was abusing everything else as well. But I mean, I was definitely 100% dependent on like these medications. But then I was like, you know what? I don't know how, but I'm going to get out of it. And I remember making the intention. I like sat down, I closed my eyes, dropped in. I wasn't even like having like a constant meditation practice like at this time, but I was just had like an awareness of there's so many other modalities and there's so much more out there for me. And I'm just ready to expand and step into those, but I just need to make the intention to do so. So I'm also just highlighting on how intention is so powerful, you know? And I sat there and I was like, I am going to get off of this medication because it's obstructing my view to who I am in my life, my future, my everything. And then once I made that intention, I found breath work. I found just amazing healers. I ended up going to Bali and like spending like a weekend with this like amazing healer who looked like, I forgot his name from Eat, Pray, and Love. What was that guy's name? The cute old man. I know. He was so cute. But he literally looked exactly like him. And we just spent
Is he still out in Bali? I need to go see this man.
I know. This is the one that I saw. The other one, was it Katuk or something? Katuk?
It sounds, yeah.
I don't know. It was like something like that. But the one I saw, I think he is still in Bali. I'll need to like track him down for you. But we just went out in the middle of the countryside. I forget where we were in Bali. It was so long ago, but just spent the entire weekend immersing ourselves with nature. There was no plant medicine, no nothing. It was just meditation, connecting with nature, swimming in the rivers, just being cleansed, just reconnecting. And for whatever reason, just the entire experience, the connection with him, just the energy of the land, just the energy that was circulating throughout the whole time. I mean, I was just going through it, bawling, crying. And I was like, all right, this is where after that like weekend experience, I'm like, I looked at my medication. I'm like, peace out. And I was like, I'm just going to quit cold turkey. I'm going crazy because I just like to test my limits sometimes. Oh my God. I felt it though for first of all months. I was like, I felt like my neurons were freaking collapsing. Like think about like if you're watching a TV or something electrical and you put water on it, it starts like jitter. Yeah. Felt like that for like months. And I was like, I think I might die because I like can't function. This sucks. But I was still maneuvering through the day, like doing what I need to do, work or whatever.
But you put yourself in a space kind of too. Like Bali is a really nice place for you to be like, I need to cut this off. Yeah. And like you said, though, it is kind of all about intention. You're like, I really want to get off of it. So I'm going to try. And like, we literally just saw you through a journey of like, everything has a purpose. You probably needed those pills in that moment to just honestly get you through the day. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then realizing when it's hindering you, which I feel like that's what a lot of people struggle with is like, yes, it's good to get you up when you need it. Yeah. But it's when you're finally okay, when is it finally enough and it's time to stop and actually reconnect with you. I feel like people struggle with the when. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. And it does make sense. And then, I mean, everything truly does have a purpose and everything has like divine timing. And I met like this amazing soul sister and she's the one that introduced me to psychedelics. Yeah. You know, and that's like what started my journey of psychedelics. And I remember like when we first took, when we took the psychedelics, just her and I was like, I feel so much. I was like breaking down. And I didn't even take that much, but I was like, this is insane, you know? And then I was like, oh my God, my poor body. I just been like, that's just the start of it. Yeah. And I'm like, what am I holding on inside? Like, you know, and there's so much that's being held in there. And then that's when I realized it's a journey. And I was like, it doesn't take 24 hours. It's not going to happen the next day. And I was like, I finally started to accept patience, trust, also self-love and love. I mean, honestly, like, all just really comes back to love. Like it's the most powerful thing. I mean, once I started being vulnerable, I'm like, this is so scary, you know? And like trying to be vulnerable with like your relationships and like your partner, I'm like, wow, love is so powerful. Why did nobody teach me this? I don't know how to deal with it. I'm overwhelmed, you know? And it took me honestly a while to like navigate how to deal with love because I was never really taught that. It was like, I
guarantee you too, there's going to be new ways to that, like pop up and you're like, I thought that I've experienced almost everything I could. And you're like, life is a journey. Everything is a surprise. My therapist even says if we're lucky, we learn our entire lives.
Yeah.
Like you never actually have anything figured out. So stop like thinking that you need to have everything figured out right now. Because babe, it's never really going to happen.
I don't know, you guys. I like check myself because there's moments where I'm like, I think I figured it out. I'm like, Greta, check yourself.
It's not
figured. And then I'm like, oh, I definitely figured nothing out and nothing out. And I was like, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm ever going to figure it out, but I am here for the ride to see what I can figure out, what I'm meant to figure out, and what I at least can share and what resonates. And I realized too, I'm like, not everything is going to resonate with everybody. Yeah. And I'm like, that's okay too, you know? And I'm like, and the ones that will resonate, I feel like that connection is just meant to happen, you know?
But also too, it's like, because you open yourself to that opportunity, you had to let go of ego.
Yeah, I know.
That had to have been pretty hard.
Oh yeah, I love that attachment to ego. I also was like a control freak, you know? I was like, I mean, that's also like I never had like a sense of safety. So it's been like my biggest thing in my entire life, and just finding safety.
I just love how the one thing that I'm getting from this now is kind of just like change so much. Like I just feel like from hearing your story, we've gone through so much, and I'm like, you're just so open to change though. Like so many people are scared to like let go of once again their ego or like how they were raised. And it's like when you just embrace I am who I am and the situations that I'm in, and I'm grateful for this moment and what it's presenting to me, and I'm gonna soak every second in. That's when it's like, like you just seem like a rock star and like transforming yourself. You're like, this is what's going on. I am listening and I'm grateful for the moment, you know?
Thank you. And I'm not going to lie, I am like still terrified of change, but I do it anyways.
But that's why also too, your 90-day journal is so nice also, because it's like, you guys, it's literally 1 page a day. It's nothing crazy. You don't have to sit there for an hour. If you don't want to, you can, but you can sit there for 5 minutes, and it just proves to you that like, it's 1 page a day. Yeah. And at the end of it, you're kind of just like, whoa, I just went on this journey and did this. And it makes you want to even think like now more big picture, like you were saying. So to kind of wrap things up also, since a theme is change and gratitude, what's one moment that completely changed your life and one thing you're extremely grateful for?
Oh my goodness. Whew. Okay. One thing that has extremely changed my life.
Yeah, I guess like a moment, like great. Do you know, life seasons were changing. There's influential moments where you're like, oh my gosh, it might have not even been a joyous one, but you're like, I needed that.
It's so interesting. I mean, honestly, I can think of a million things, but the first thing that pops up is like Chris, my boyfriend, meeting him.
Yeah. He seems like such a grounded guy. I've never really spoke with him too much, but I'm like, you guys,
And the reason why I say that is I've like never been open to love. Like I've always been chasing toxic relationships after relationships, like back to back. And I was like, you know what? I'm just surviving on my own. Like I just got to do this on my own. Like screw it. Like, and then I was also obviously repeating a ton of patterns and behaviors of relationships. And then when I met Chris, it changed everything. He was the most patient human with me. And I like wasn't the greatest because I went to all my coping mechanisms of being isolating, being cold, not communicating, because I would not accept the love or believe that I deserved true love. And he helped me peel this layers of onion, many layers of this onion that I had little by little by little, but he never forced anything.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and with that too, obviously, like, of course, like he had his boundaries of, you know, like he wasn't just like accepting everything that I was going through, but he was like the first person that helped me actually listen and change. And I never thought that I would ever find love or my person in my entire life. It was a fact, I thought. I was like, I'm never going to find it. It's not going to happen, even though I would talk about it. But deep down, I'm like, it is never going to happen. And then he showed up and I was like, wow, everything that I've ever believed has about, you know, men or relationships or things that I saw, he just completely constructed that entire belief. And he was the first person that just showed up for me fully and honestly saw me for who I am. And I like that phrase in itself where it's like, oh, like, you know, they see me for who I am. I never really understood that. But then I'm like, oh my God, I feel so seen and loved. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's like, yeah.
So it's safe to say you're grateful for him.
I'm safe to say. And then I will also say, so I'm safe to say that I'm so grateful for him. I love that man. And I am so grateful for all my relationships and like my connections. And honestly, like even sitting here with you guys, like what a freaking gift. Yeah. Like good-hearted people with good intentions. Like I live for that shit, you know? Yeah. Just like real honest people. And then I guess and maybe it's because I used to just throughout my journey, I would find a lot of people that were toxic, but I needed to find them to get to where I was going to be. And just to be in a position now where I'm just surrounded by everybody, where we just can hold each other, be safe in each other's spaces, be real, and help each other to grow, evolve, and to support each other. I'm just like, honestly, I'm just going to keep doing my best in this lifetime. I'll try things. I'm going to try this brand. I'm going to try these journals. I'm going to expand. And at the end of the day, though, I'm like, you know what? What's really important to me is like, I like got amazing people around me. Like, this is actually great. And all these are things I really think about are just like so fun. Just like whatever it is you're doing, just have fun. Like express what makes you happy, what makes you happy, what literally sparks that excitement inside of you, what makes you feel things, you know, just it's all like forms of expression, you know? And I think that's so beautiful. So yeah, so tie that all up.
Yeah. No, that I agree so much with that. I do believe that a lot of things in this earth, when it comes to materialistic things, like they can always be bought, they can always be rebuilt, but like people are so uniquely themselves for a reason. Mm-hmm. You're never going to find the same person. You're not. So the ones that you have close to you, hold them tightly and be really grateful for those like good people that build you up. That's probably what I'm most grateful for this year is like, I was even telling Matt and like, I'm so grateful to just have such a good support system that honestly, I never thought I would have, and to have just so many amazing conversations like this. I used to pray to have like intellectual, emotionally deep conversations because I didn't have a lot of that growing up or the town that I'm from. And I thought I was never going to find that. I thought I was never going to meet people on my wavelength that are going to also like want to build and grow together. So I'm eternally grateful for both of you guys sitting here right now too.
Oh, thank you.
Your turn.
Now you want to close this out? What's your grateful?
Yeah, your turn.
Gosh, you know, and I know not to be like, you know, say the same thing, but at the same time,
but to say the same thing.
But to say the same thing, you know, I will say that I'm very grateful for the people that I have in my life at this moment. You know, we talk about moments that have kind of altered who we are as people. You know, I go back to 3 years ago, almost to the date, a month ago. So yeah, 3 years and a month. I decided to move out to Los Angeles. Yeah. And we talk about doing it scared. And that was a big thing. And so like just being grateful to giving myself that opportunity to do something new, to be scared in those moments, but then recognizing that goodness can come from it. Yeah. And to be now surrounded by incredible people such as yourselves, you know, and meeting you for the first time tonight. I'm like, you and I are going to be friends.
Yes, please. So I already made that decision. Yeah, I was like, I hope he just accepts.
I was like, no, you're coming over for dinner, you know? Yes. So, but truly, it's just like you start meeting such incredible humans. And when you keep your mind open and you keep that, you know, sense of self, you know, open and meeting new people and new experiences, great things will come from it. Yeah. And like, you know, I'm just very, very fortunate to be in that situation and mindset now today.
That was lovely.
Wait, that was so lovely. Yes. Wait, I love this.
Yes. I know we could all probably say the same thing, but thank you guys so much for the amazing conversation. Greta, thank you so much for coming out here from the West Side and joining us.
For the West Side, for making that journey.
Yeah,
so many journeys. No, but for real, thank you guys so much for having me. Yes. Like so much. I want to I'm trying to think of other words in the vocabulary. That's not thank you. That's more, sometimes it's so hard to really express truly all those good feelings that you feel, and gratitude and stuff. But I hope that helps explain and exude how grateful I am for you too.
It definitely does. I feel you, girl. I feel you. But on that note too, to our viewers, we will be linking the link for her amazing journal and website and everything below. Please check it out, because truly will change your life. It's a little thing that you can do to show up for yourself and just continue on the journey. So thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, I love you.
And keep shining your light. Have a good night.